this political season, which in my opinion, I'll just share my bias, can't get over soon enough. I was ready for it to be done as soon as it started. So political signs, restaurants, places to stay, opportunities for excursions and such. There's always invitations for us to participate in something. Something that is inviting us into the use of our resources of time, our talents, our treasures, our resources, and all of those other things that occupy life. But the invitation is always there. And it is without question that, I'll just speak for myself, that on any given day, it can be challenging from time to time to be able to figure out where is it that I want to give my energy, my resources, my time, my finances, and such. As we think about that, and maybe you've already done that in past practices as you're coming towards the end of this month and this series of messages, I would be curious to know, and if you've already done this, just say, I've done it, and we've been there. Thank you, Sarah. Trust me, I don't have a cold. It's just the seasonal stuff that goes on. But what are the things on a given day that you are invited into? I would love to hear from you all as a group as we kind of share our own. Have you done this already? Has somebody done this for you? No? Where you've had the opportunity to voice the things that you think about? You have or you haven't? Okay. What's that? Yes. Okay, all right. Well, then we can bypass that. So, but regardless of having that experience or not, I want you to think, because this is going to progress towards the end of our time together, where it'll culminate into an invitation of sorts. But for me, as I have had a progression of change in my life, particularly around the way that I think, and I've shared with you in the past, for those of you who have been present, that much of my life has been shaped by my youngest son, who is now 22 years old and has autism, of rethinking how I see him, interact with him, embrace his life, and choose to be in relationship with him. And fortunately, in many ways, I came to the realization about the midpoint of his life that that the opportunity to really have a sense of fulfillment and relational connection and intimacy was more on me than it was on him. That the internal work of how I saw him, see him, experience him was really dependent upon my attitude, my disposition, my belief, and the lens that I chose to put on and look through in life. And that's not just par and parcel, folks, for just my son and my relationship with him, but it's in so many ways an invitation for all of us. It's very common for so many of us in this human world to gravitate towards those places where we feel comfortable and safe. Naturally, you're here today because there's an alignment, right? Of values, of beliefs, of perspectives. And in the UU tradition, I learned pretty quick, well, maybe not so much, depends on who you ask. But in that regard, it's the alignment of what we believe and what we don't believe, or everything else in between. That's the beauty of this tradition. And so for many of us, even though we gravitate towards those places that are comfortable and safe, and the places in which we just feel absorbed and are able to relax, there are equal and opposite opportunities for us to have to work through what it is we do with those uncomfortable places of life. And for me, in so many ways, those have become the invitation for each and every day to become a grand adventure into mystery and wonder. I was sharing with Sarah before our time with you today and our time together, because of the work that I do and the various businesses that I own, we secured an opportunity in Hamtramck. Hamtramck is a place, those of you who are familiar with it, has radically changed over the years, predominantly Polish, and has gravitated towards having citizens, people that are a part of that community that are now from Bangladesh, that are Middle Eastern, Afghanistan, and such. And we had the opportunity to do some work there. Because of the cultures that I've come from, there was a lot of learning and growth that was needed on my part to be able to do what we needed to do and what we were invited to be a part of because of the work that they had asked us to participate in. And every single time that we drove to Hamtramck, it was met with wonder and mystery and warm welcomes by the people that were a part of that community. Even though, naturally, by looking at me, I don't fit. I'm not necessarily a part of that cultural framework and makeup. But yet, that was an invitation to a grand adventure. Places in which there was discomfort, right? This isn't a place that I necessarily belong or am a part of, but it's an opportunity for me to be able to see life just a little bit different. And I believe in so many ways when we begin to change the way that we think, it really impacts the perspective that we have on the other in life. By hearing the stories and the experiences and looking through the burqas and seeing the eyes, of realizing behind all of the things and the facades that we put on, regardless of whatever culture we come from, there is one thing that holds us together. We are a part of this human race. And there are three things that are true, I believe, in my own truth, that we hold in common despite all of the things that we believe are so exceptional about ourselves. We all crave to be seen for who we really are, to be heard in that inner guttural voice that we carry around with us, the stories, the experiences, the celebrations and the pains. And then we also long to be truly and authentically loved, more than just, hey, I love you, but I really love you. I love you. And so it's in that invitation that we wake with in each and every single new day that comes, that there's an opportunity for us to embrace the grand adventure, regardless of what our lives look like and who we belong to and where our time is spent and whether we're just starting out with life and we're a toddler that's entering into the educational experience of preschool and kindergarten and grade school, or whether we're at the other end of the spectrum. And I think about this a lot for those who have retired out of professions and experiences in life and maybe have more time than what they've had before. There is a grand adventure for all of us. And when we lose that sense of the invitation to participate in the grand adventure of life, I think that that is when the glimmer of life begins to fade. This past week, I was invited to an event for a center of influence, a connection, a relationship that I have with another individual who represents the state of Michigan with a business opportunity. And as they were celebrating the grand opening of their office in Ann Arbor, happens to be the place that I graduated from, I was surprised. I didn't really even read the invite. It was just, hey, we'd like you to show up. This is the words of my friend, and here's the times. And I walked in, and there was about 30 or 40 people, and I looked across the room, and I said, I was thinking, I know that guy over there. Somehow I know that guy. He looks so familiar. And then shortly after I arrived, he got up, not because of me arriving, but because I was about a half hour late, and it was time for whatever was supposed to take place that I missed out on in terms of the invitation. And Coach John Beeline got up to offer a few words. I have to be honest, I'm not a starstruck kind of person. Because at the heart of who we are is John Beeline is a human being just like the rest of us, and he's going through the same struggles of life, and he just got positioned into this place where he was able to support and encourage and mentor and coach young men in life. I've been not in a starstruck sort of way. I've been enamored by his life because of his values, the core values that he carries with him through life of kindness and gentleness and a sense of peace, at least from the outside I've seen that. But he got up to give a 15-minute talk that he was invited or paid probably to be able to be there for. And he gave these 5 principles that really hit with me this week about what it means to live a life, however we define it, a life of success. And it wasn't superficial in terms of success is the notable, tangible things that we define success by. But it's success in terms of truly being fulfilled and having a meaningful life that makes a difference in this world. He said it begins with this. Number 1, the greatest work that we can do is to enroll in the college, the university of achieving a PhD in me. The invitation to do the challenging work within inside of ourselves of deconstructing and reconstructing, and the crucible that happens that I'm sure and certain all of you are very familiar with, of asking the tough questions, of going into the challenging rooms, of going into the dark closets of life and opening up the door and say, here I am. And he made it very clear that when we enroll in the university of the PhD in me, it's not the notable times isn't when we walk across the stage and we receive our diploma and we're dressed with all of the garb. The PhD happens, the PhD in me happens mostly in the most painful, challenging times of life, right? The second thing that he talked about was getting the right person on the bus. And so naturally in a business setting, he was talking about getting the right person in terms of employees, but also clients. I would extend that to the context of our time here today. Getting the right person, people on the bus, is finding those individuals who can be a part of our tribe, where we belong, where it's not just going down for social hour after this is all done and over with, which I am thinking about for some reason. You all have like great social hours. But it's about finding our tribe who are a part of our bus that not only support us in times in which life is not good, but they're there in a very gentle and loving and kind and assertive way to challenge us in those times in which we need to be shaken, holding us accountable, because it's out of that deep sense of love that love requires so much more. The third thing that he said as we think about living a life of fulfillment, success, whatever that might mean, is to establish trust in whatever we do and care about people as the first and foremost objective with the life that we live. Establishing trust. In the work that I do on a daily basis, there's never a week that goes by that I and my business partner are in a space, in a room, in a place where we are hearing the stories of professionals, regardless of their title, their acclaim, of what they do and what they accomplish. It becomes a place of vulnerability. And trust is a huge part of what it means to embrace the life of another person. Trust for me means a couple of things. It means that you're safe with me, that the things that you share are confidential, truly confidential. They don't go any further than the time that we share now. They don't end up on social media. They don't get told to another person so that I can feel good about myself, as if I have the inside scoop on somebody else. Trust is about embracing another human for who they really are, accepting them, of not necessarily reacting to the things that sometimes we'll react to in terms of, oh, that's really dirty and cool and really dark, and I'm fascinated by that. But just having that simple non-effect of realizing that I accept you for who you are, where you've been, and what you've experienced in this life. Trust means that I not only create a space of confidentiality and a place in which I accept you for who you are, but I'm also willing to walk with you, whatever that might mean. Fourth, he talked about how growth, how having a life of this in this grand adventure is about having a growth mindset. I just have this personal thought inside of myself that says the moment in which we stop growing is the time in which somebody is performing a eulogy for us. Growth is a part of life. Being challenged is so much a part of that as well. And so I would invite you to think, where do we collectively and individually need to continue to stretch ourselves and grow? And then lastly, living a life of adventure, and the invitation therein is about embracing sudden change. One of the things that is true about life that I have come to find is that change is truly the most definite part of what exists in this life. Change will always happen, right? Regardless of whether it's small in the packaging of that piece of food that we get, or that when we go to the grocery store and they took that item and they put it into another aisle, and it creates rage inside of myself. Or maybe a discontinuation of a service that has been provided to us in the past. Change is so much a part of life. So my question to you this morning are a couple of things. And let's just use it as a time of an extension of meditation. How do we decide, Sarah, as you mentioned about the various invitations that are extended to us in this life, how do we decide where we offer our time, our talents, our resources, our attention? When there are so many stimuli, more now than ever, because of this little device that has changed our world. And folks, as I look into the sea of this room, it's not just Gen Z. We're all addicted to it, and we all use it, and we all see it, and we're all consuming it every single day. How do we decide what we're going to respond to, where we're going to use and how we're going to use our time, our talent, our resources, and our affection. What are your values? What are the values that you hold and possess? Have you ever done the challenging work of that, of really digging deep? Oh, I'm all about love. Well, what does that mean? I'm about peace. Well, what does peace mean? Spending some time to deconstruct those larger categories of life, of what are our values, what means the most to us. Because what we value and what we feel and what we experience and the things that we hold close to us are the places that will be reflective of the time and the energy that we give. What are you passionate about? What are the things that you're really passionate about? I've been thinking about this, and I just have to speak it out into the universe, into a sea of accountability. I've been thinking as I've moved towards a different place and being a parent of a child with a disability, that I have, for the longest time, wanted to start just nothing formal. It doesn't need to become a world movement, let alone one that is a movement across the county. But just providing a space for dads of children with disabilities to come together and just be. There, I said it, and I probably need to act on it now, right? But what are you passionate about? What are the things that stir your soul? Well, maybe during this election year, there's lots that's stirring your soul. But maybe as we move outside of that period of time, before and after and thereafter, what are the things that create passion inside of you? And those of you who have matured into a different place of life say, well, I'm too old. I don't buy it, and you don't get a ticket. You don't get a ticket of freedom to exempt yourself from being passionate. What are the things that create passion in your life? You have a responsibility to give of yourself so much of this life. What are you capable of committing yourself to? Do that inventory. Be honest with yourself. I have this, but I don't have that. I have time here, I don't have time there. Where and what are you capable of committing yourself to? And so as we think about the next steps, and we're winding this down now, right? As you think about next steps, I would love for you to make a commitment before you walk outside of the doors of this place today. To be able to say, at least in my first initial steps, I am committed to doing X, Y, and Z. They don't have to be grandiose. They don't have to be just out of this world otherly. They can just be as simple as, I'm thinking about this young student that I'm connected to, or a person in my neighborhood that I'm going to choose to take out to lunch and be a mentor to, maybe once a month. But what are the next steps? And as you do that, here's 4 different categories I'd like to have you think about in the next steps of the invitation of the grand adventure that you're being invited into on a daily basis. What is the who? What is the what? What is the where? And what is the when? Folks, we were not made to just live subdued, ordinary lives. We were brought into existence for something so great and so meaningful and so powerful that is in alignment with the U tradition of truly making a difference in the world. So may it be so as you struggle and feel the discomfort of the invitation that is before us. Amen. Let us just sit on those for a moment in this time of silence. I've filled a lot of the room with my voice, And I want you to have just a few moments to think about the who, the next steps, the who, the what, the where, and the when. Let's join together as we sing our closing hymn. Page 300, When Heart and